It looks pretty good. Oh my giddy aunt, that looks really good. There's one fighter and a bomber, another fighter, and a bomber. Oh, wow. Okay, welcome back to video number 3 in our Guadalcanal series. Before we get going, may I mention that I make these videos in aid of a charity called Cure Parkinson's. You can guess what they're trying to do. There is a link to them below this video, one in the About section on the channel page. If you happen to have a spare dollar, euro, yen, yak, or a Japanese supply you could send to them, I'm sure that they'd appreciate it. Now, I'm pointing out Japanese supplies particularly because we think that Japan maybe, now we're looking at this from Japan being the first player, have made a little boo-boo. Not necessarily a horrible, terrible decision or choice by me yesterday, but I'm beginning to think perhaps they should have thought about buying some more supplies to bring those forward. They've got 0 supplies on their base card, nothing coming forward, no way of building air bases. They were thinking that they could perhaps defeat America Land by taking out their capital ships, aircraft carriers, battleships, getting a point from there and keep destroying this airfield. But I'm starting to think now that Japan, though the score is even at 5 each, are going to start getting behind in this game very quickly. With America bringing a supply forward to try to repair this airfield, I just think that Japan's best hope is perhaps switching their tactics slightly from what we thought, which was going to be reinforcing Georgia or New Georgia big time. Maybe, and we don't tell the American player this, we jump onto Santa Isabel, bomb it with all our bombists, fight it with all our fighters, land some units on there, and perhaps play some of our national advantage tokens to take that island and take that airfield from the Americans, or at least force them to put some of their resources that away to try to save their island and save their base. Otherwise, we've got a problem as Japan. We've got this one submarine here which may move from this water to this water. It's still being attacked by, I think it would be 6 artillery pieces before it can get in and do damage around the back side of America Land's forces. So as far as Japan are concerned, when we start loading and moving our transport ships, we're going to be moving stuff with a view to invading Santa Isabel, perhaps even using 2 transport ships to come through from the guys on Choiseul, guys on Bougainville. They can come into here, get a quite good invasion fleet going, and America will be reacting to that. So let me formulate an entire plan for whatever Japan are going to try to move towards Santa Isabel, and think about what America would do in reaction, loading and moving transports in phase 1, step 1 of turn number 3. Okay, so we're going to be doing the Japanese load and move transports entirely separately from America Land, because I don't want to rely on my imagination and my memory. Japan will be going first, America will see what's happening and be able to react to that. And I want to be able to get as much reaction live properly as I can do, because this is quite important. This could be a big turning point in the game. So Japan have got this cunning plan. They're going to take these 2 transport ships, take the 4 things off of Choiseul, which is infantry artillery, and come into Sea Zone C. They're going to be taking an anti-aircraft gun and a infantry unit off of Bougainville, coming through Sea Zone into C. So loading on not a massively huge force there, but it's got some potency. But Japan aren't finished quite yet with that. On their base card, they have 6 infantry and 3 transport ships. They're going to be coming out of Rabaul into Sea Zone B, parking themselves in the water, bobbing along, waiting to see where they can get to. And 2 transport ships that are in Sea Zone, whatever this number is, F, can go back into Sea Zone B and head back to its base card sometime on next turn. That's all it's going to be for Japan. Obviously now America can see this move, telegraphed like a pole. Let me have a good think about how they're going to react, because obviously they've got 4 transport ships here, only 1 guy on the island. Let's see what they can do. I think as far as Japan are concerned, I've been continuing their thinking a little bit off camera, And well, there is part B of their plan I was umming and ahhing about, but we are on with America, so I can't bring their thoughts too much into the American mind. The Americans, no subtlety with them whatsoever, but they have to keep in mind that they only have a couple of transport ships down here in the sea zones that can get back into New Caledonia to pick guys up and come forward again. So as far as the Americans are concerned, they're going to be taking these 2 transport ships here back onto their base card, as well as these 2 transport ships back onto their base card. It makes them slightly lighter in their moving forwardnesses. But from the base card, they do have 1 transport ship that can come forward and bringing with it a infantry artillery combination, which we like doing. Though that combination is usually much less effective in this type of game than it is in a regular Axis and Allies game. We're going to take, with these 4 transport ships, all these guys here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus a couple of artillery. Is it 6 or 5? Let me just double check that count. Yeah, that's me counting it wrong. It's 5 plus the anti-aircraft gun. Is going to go forward early into this attack. It does mean that Guadalcanal is left a little bit naked with in terms of air cover, but the Japanese are struggling to reach that island. That we think is what America would do, and bringing the 2 guys here from Guadalcanal that we jumped forward with our special jumping forwardness with our deploys last turn, to bring him forward with a supply token and a guy on there to help bolster the island up. It does mean that Japan have now got to second guess what's going to happen in Santa Isabel. The question is, as we get into the moving battleships section of this game, and I've gone back on my yes, we're definitely going to do this, to should we, shouldn't we? Do Japan decide to move their battleship, therefore the rest of their fleet, into Sea Zone C to protect all of this lot? Or they move their battleship and the rest of the fleet forward into Sea Zone H and have a crack at America land and all these invading troops? You know, when you get into these big battle situations, sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, and pulling back is the best thing for Japan to do. But I think in this situation, I'm really tempted to go forward and have one big bash in Sea Zone H, even though they're going to be outgunned by these artilleries that America land have got and Japan don't have landed just yet. But I'm very much tempted for that. So let me just roll a dice and decide how this is going to work. I think on a 1 or a 2, Japan will pull back into Sea Zone C. And on a 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to go for this big battle in the slot here. So let me get the dice set up. 1 second, so we can all see it. It's all leftovers from yesterday, because real life got in the way once I finished the last video. And it's a 5. So we did say on a 4, 5 or 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to go into the slot here. That is what we're going to be doing with Japan. So Japan, straight away, I'm just going to tidy this back a little bit from the Americans, give us some initial bits of room here. So they're going to come into here, the battleship. America's battleship won't move. It's now move the aircraft carriers. Well, once again, we might as well move the carriers into place, because they can take a hit, an expensive hit it's going to be, but the more units we got in here, the more of a distraction it's going to be for America. So as all these fighters go in with this, and I tied it up properly in a mo, America's carrier, that will roll into place as well with its 2 fighters. And then we go on to the moving the cruisers. Obviously, these 2 cruisers move into here. There is a 3rd cruiser. I thought there was a 3rd one somewhere. This one's going to come into Sea Zone G. And as far as America is concerned, all their ships are in line here anyway. Then we get on to the load and move destroyers. Take these two destroyers in here, add them to the battle, because should we bring them into a sea battle, loaded up with units and a big sea battle it is, destroyers are one of the first things to get hit on the card. So I think that if we were to load units from New Georgia over to Santa Isabel on destroyers, we would just be losing. They will be sunk straight away. And I think America must observe that same kind of ideal. So they're going to be moving their destroyers, which are back here in Sea Zone K, into this battle here for one huge great dice roll. And I think that is about everything that we can move. I'm just double. Oh, there's a couple of guys here. My mistake. In Sea Zone B, we should think about protecting those 6 guys. Is it on camera? These 6 guys up here with these 2 destroyers, because if we move them forward into this sea zone here, we're protecting these guys on the landing fleet. How much do America want to commit to attacking those guys? It's a real hard choice. Or will America decide to only protect its own fleet there? I think we're going to go for an each way bet here by moving this one destroyer into here to help protect this fleet, leaving one here to protect that fleet. It's not a massive big protection, but it's something better than nothing. Yep, that'll do for me. I think that's enough. Let's have a think about the next part of it, which is to move and attack with our submarines. Japan's single surviving submarine is down here. It's going to move round the back and hope that it can sneak in without anybody noticing it there. This one submarine here in Sea Zone H, where the big battle is taking place, can have an attack, and there's one submarine on their base card at Mabourg that can move into Sea Zone J there. So this one submarine is going to pick its target, and it's going to pick one of the aircraft carriers because they're the most vulnerable. They're the one which may give them a single victory point if they can hit it, or if they can roll a 1 and knock it out straight away. So we've got our dice in our tube. One American submarine trying to roll a 1. And it's a 5. Okay, so nothing happened with that submarine. That is the end of the move and attack with submarines phase. We now think about our bombers. Japan have got some bombers on their base card, which I will not forget to move this time. They can go 1 into the water off of Rebel, and then 1 into Sea Zone B, and then they can come forward 1 more space to protect this fleet here. That's about all they can do. So it's these 2 reaching across in front of the camera into Sea Zone C to help protect this invasion fleet. The other 2 bombers, you're going to stand up for me. The other 2 bombers which they have are on Bougainville. They've got 3 flights that they can do. 1 into the water, 2 and 3 to help attack this big fleet. Or 3 and try to knock out any kind of Americans on Santa Isabel. It's not quite a going for broke strategy, but it's definitely making the Americans think exactly where they're going to be putting their planes. They have got 2 bombers on Guadalcanal. They can try to support the battle into Santa Isabel by flying 1-2 spaces, and I'm not necessarily sure that is the right move. I think as far as the guys on the base card are concerned, bringing them into consideration, because there are bombers here, 1 into the water, 2, 3. If America land, go for broke with these 2 and these 2 and concentrate on the slot on Sea Zone H. 1 or 2 massive dice rolls are going to take place there. I think that's probably America's best shot, defending its big fleet, defending its invasion force against this attack onto Santa Isabel. It's going to be one humongous great attack on both sides. So 2 great humongous great attacks, but we like big dice rolls. Following on from there, we think about the moving the fighters. On the base card, there are just a couple of guys there in Rebel. They can only get as far as Sea Zone B, which is here. So unfortunately, these 4 fighters two lots of twos, are a little bit behind, you could say. And are Japan premature by coming forward one turn too early? It's very possible. But we're going to risk it for a biscuit. These two fighters on Choizo, 1, 2, going to add their weight to this massive attack. The fighters that... stand up for me. The fighters that American Land have on their carriers are going to stay there. They're not going anywhere. I think there's a temptation to perhaps use them to attack one of the air force, to attack any of these fleets that Japan have got, but defending their main fleet, that is going to be their priority. It must be their priority. And they've got, I think it's 4 fighters on their base card from their purchase last time. 1 into the water off of New Caledonia, 1 into the sea zone by Guadalcanal. Again, they can't do anything until till next turn. They're a little bit ineffective so far. But the reserve fighters are even on both sides. That is the end of the movement phase. Let me have a big tidy up, possibly write down a few numbers as well, and then we'll start rolling some dice in the phase 2 combat. Okay, let's get ready to throw some dice at this. There's these 2 massive attack air units phases that go off now. There may be some cutting and shutting during this entire battle, because trying to remember the numbers in my befuddled brain is not always that easy. But we're going to get 18 dice from Japan versus America, 20 dice from America versus Japanese units. We were thinking about perhaps playing some of these command decision tokens, but we figured that the air attacks don't warrant it, and Japan wouldn't want a second potential attack and thus losses to its navy so far from home, and America feel confident that they're in front. So we're not playing the tokens there for those reasons, rightly or wrongly. We're going to grab these dice out. Are we still in shot on my rolling table? Yes, we are. We've got 18 dice for Japan, them being the first player in this turn. Good shake in the tube. These are the first 12 dice coming out. It looks pretty good. Oh my giddy aunt, that looks really good. There's 1 fighter and a bomber, another fighter, and a bomber. Oh, wowee! So America will lose 1, 2 bombers, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 fighters in the first half of that roll. Let me write that down, because that's really important. Then we get to the second half of the roll, just using 6 dice now. So we have 6 more to go to bring it up to the 18. Any more damage on the American forces, and it's going to be an overroll. I think it has that potential. And there are 2 more hits, both on fighters. So 2 more American fighters go down. 6, 8 in total. So 8 units in total have been lost from America from 18 dice. Yeah, I think that's possibly a little bit stronger than Japan could have hoped for. Pretty pleased with that. So for America Land, they now get 20 dice versus Japan. They have fewer fighters, but extra bombers and 1 or 2 extra from the anti-aircraft guns. First 12 coming out. Not looking good. Not looking good at all from America. That's horrible. They've hit 1 fighter, 1 fighter, 1 fighter. Just 3 out of the first 12. Wow, okay. We now get 10 more dice. No, we don't. We get 8 more dice. Get me counting right. So to bring them up to their 20. Counting is never my strong point. Luckily, my other half, the funny lady, is an accountant. She keeps me in check. So 8 more dice, and America have scored this time 1, 2, 3 hits on there. So 3 plus 3 equals 6. I can do that bit of it, which is the exact number of Japanese fighters in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all the Japanese air wing have been taken out, but they have really outscored the American air wing themselves. So let me just tidy that up and come back to you ahead of the sea battle or attack sea units. Okay, as I was tidying away the pieces from that battle, I suddenly realised just how much bigger that result was than I first thought. America only had 4 fighters in there, so 2 of the unassigned fighter hits went onto the bombers. There is no air left in Sea Zone H. Not only were Japan knocked out, America were knocked out of the air as well. That was pretty damn huge. So we get on to the sea battle now. Having a quick count up of all these units in there, America have got 12 dice they can throw at the Japanese fleet. Japan have got 11 dice they can throw back again. But America could boost their numbers up here with these artillery units on Santa Isabel to give an extra 5 dice against that fleet. But we figure as the American player, should they want to really take out this invasion fleet, because America only have got 1 guy on the island so far, plus whatever may come through, and a lot of it's going to come through anyway, but knocking these guys out there could be the better choice for America then. So the first attack we're going to be doing is taking these 5 artillery pieces, pointing them this way into the water and trying to hit whatever is in the water there. Remembering that 1s are destroyed and 2s are damaged on many of the ships that are in here. The 5 dice are in the tube. Artillery versus the Sea Zone C. And America scored 2 hits against the Japanese there. The first one will go on to a destroyer straight away. The second one will go on to an artillery, and it's at a 1. So America can choose which boat it's going on to. So the destroyer goes away straight away. And what I've got here, I've got these guys between boats, which for me, it means you've got 1 on each, 1 on t'other. So they've got infantry, artillery split between those 2 boats. So Japan will lose those 2 fairly expensive units. Their invasion force has now been reduced down to a mere patter of footsteps. So let's have a look at the major battle which goes on in here. We need 11 dice, so I can leave 1 behind. Get these into the tube. For Japan now making the first roll, they are the first player. And see what they can do versus this major American fleet. It doesn't look that good, not as good as the they came out in that order, not as good as the first air wing attack, but they have scored 2s and 1s there and a 2 there. Actually, it's a bit better than I thought. Yeah, I'm reasonably happy with that so far. So, looking at that, the first dice is onto a battleship. The American battleship goes ouch, only because it's ignoring that first hit. We've hit its heavy armour, so it ignores the first hit. The second hit is a destroyed on an aircraft carrier. Oh my giddy aunt. That aircraft carrier is destroyed. Japan, 1 moment, will gain an extra point for taking out a capital ship. That puts them in front, just by a fraction. Ooh. So the next hit goes on to a transport, and it is a damaged on a transport, or a 2 hit on a transport rather, which means America can choose which one. They're going to choose one with 2 infantry units that are on there, so I can take 1, 2 off of that stack, and that comes out of there. The next hit which they've got will be on a battleship, and it is a destroyed hit on the battleship. Eek! And it gets worse from there, because the last hit which the Japanese have scored is on an aircraft carrier on a damaged. So this 1 battleship goes down. It means that Japan score an extra point, another victory point. This was pretty decisive battle, and their one aircraft carrier goes into the damage box there. It has no planes to catch anyway, so it's not too terrible as far as landing their planes are concerned, but that is pretty decisive in the battle thus far. So, America in return get 12 dice. They're going to be hoping to do similar kinds of damage. It's just the way the dice come out of this tube. Sometimes you get the great hits, sometimes they're not so good. But taking 2 capital ships, I think, is really more than Japan could have hoped for. We've got 12 dice in the tube. It's America's attack back versus Japan. There's a couple of ones up front. And it's not that good. It's not good at all. We've got 2 hits down there, one on a cruiser, one on a battleship, and the other hit, which is up there on number 8, on the battleship again. That is really, really poor, because one cruiser is destroyed. Fair enough, Japan will take that happily. The one on the battleship, well, they ignore the first hit with their heavy armour. The second hit on the battleship up here only damages it. It removes this battleship over to the damage box for Japan. They can repair it. That is it. I think you really could say from that sea battle there that Japan have rather got away with it, if not say it was inspired leadership. Yamamoto would be proud of those dice rolls. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I had to cut and shut just to make sure that my thinking was correct here. With the unload transports and or destroyers, we've got these guys here down in America. We're going to do America first, but for a special reason, you'll see it in a minute. They're going to unload these units onto Melita just because it gets them out of the water and safe if the submarine does something later on. That's not important. The important thing is what happens up here. Japan have this idea that they could load their 3 units onto the island. It's not very much. It's not very much to do down there. But America have got their units sitting in the water here. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units which can go onto the land here. America could exploit their amphibious assault token and then have an advanced attack versus the Japanese, and then a second attack against them afterwards, and just completely wipe Japan out of that. So Japan being the first player, knowing this, knowing they're weakened, they weren't strong there anyway, but knowing they've been weakened by that artillery unit knocking out their ships, they can say, nope, we're not going to land our units. They're going to leave these units out in the water there, so there's nothing for the Americans to be able to do here. America could land their units onto this island here. If they land their units onto the island here right away, then they won't be playing their amphibious assault tokens, and if they leave them bobbing around in the water, they could be vulnerable to attacks later on in the next round's sea attack phase. So I think America will have to move onto the land here. It nullifies the use of their amphibious assault token. It gives them, it's a really powerful token for them, but by Japan not putting units onto here, it's ineffective entirely. So that's a good move by Japan by doing nothing. That is a case of discretion being the better part of valour. The only attacked land that can take place now will be this Japanese bomber or 2 Japanese bombers versus anything which is on the ground here. You can't hit the air base, and it's not supporting any of this ground attack, but it's going to be doing a sterling job, we think, in knocking out some of these guys. They get 4 dice versus those American invading forces, because it's invading, it was Japanese territory beforehand. So we get 4 dice into our tube. See if we can knock out any of those American invading infantries and artilleries, etc. and they've scored 4 misses. So nothing happened there. Ignore all that last couple of minutes of speaking. But that is the end of the combat phase. We will get on to the regroup, which is determining control of the islands and landing air units, building airfields, etc., even repairing the airfields. But Japan at the moment, at this stage, are 7-5 up on points. That could be quite important. I need a little lie down. I'll get back to you once I've got my head together, and we're going to see how the regroup phase takes place. Okay, after that excitement, I'm back with the phase 3 regroup, determine control of islands. No island control has changed, nothing happens there. We get to land the air units. America, where do you want to land your air units? Well, they've got their 4 fighters there, and they can't land them here just yet because this hasn't been rebuilt. So the 2 fighters, the 4, 2 will go onto Guadalcanal and 2 will go backwards behind on Guadalcanal. Let me change that up while we're here. Japan have got a nice little choice here of where they put their bombers and fighters. Obviously, with 4 fighters left over that came through that didn't get involved in the battle, they can come through 1-2 sea zones on the second half of their flights, 1-2, and they can get themselves onto the carriers. I shall tidy things up, I'm sure, before we start going again. I like things neat and tidy. Then we get to land their bombists. They've got 4 bombers there that survived all the attacks. 2 can go onto Choiseul, a nice advanced place for them, and 2 can go onto Bougainville, which is not too far behind. Then we get on to the building airfields. Nobody is building airfields. No one's got supplies on board. We do America first because that's the easiest one to do. And I've got them down in front of me straight away. They're going to get themselves 4 bombers to replace the ones that were lost. They go onto their card straight away, ready to come onto board. And a couple of infantry guys there. Reason being, they've got enough units already on islands to be able to defend themselves. They've got some guys on the base card and they've got 4 transport ships there already, but they do need to get some heavy hitting up front. I think it's important that America do that. Japan's reinforcement points, they've spent themselves slightly cleverly, we think. They're getting 1 supply to repair their battleship, is in the damage box. That then comes out into there. 1 supply to deploy it into the sea zone B. And 1 supply for spares, because we had a few bits of pieces left over, plus 7 on their cruiser, and they can buy themselves 3 fighters. They all go on to Rabaul. Because the air attack, whilst it was surprising to me just about how spectacular it also was very effective. And I think keeping these carriers supplied with aircraft is important for Japan's plans. Whether they stay here on the next turn when we pass the control mark over is a different matter. We also have 1 little errata to take care of as well. In all the excitement of all the sea battles, I didn't notice, although I should have done, as I did mention it, this submarine slipping into Sea Zone D can be hit by this 1 artillery piece. So we're going to roll 1 dice for America land. See if we can take out that 1 submarine. It's important because this submarine can get through into the back end of the American fleet next time round. So 1 dice plus is that. See if that gets hit. And nothing happens. The artillery shot themselves in their own paws. So that is the end of the reinforced repair and deploys. Scoring victory points. We nearly forgot. We repair the 1 airfield. That comes off, which gives America an extra little boost now on their point scoring things. They have got 1, 2, 3, 4 points, brings their 5 up to 9. And Japan, with their 3 airfields, plus the 2 capital ships they took down last time, goes from 7 to 10. So they are still 1 point in advance, although America, once again, are going to be outscoring Japan by 1 extra point every turn, which could be decisive in the upcoming turn number 4, which will be in the next video. That's plenty enough for now. Thank you very much for watching all that excitement, and I will see you sometime in the very near future.